Hello everybody and welcome back to the Kingdom Hearts 3 playthrough extras. So we made it through the Starlight Way and now we begin our journey through the Misty Stream. Now the Misty Stream is bloody gigantic. It's got sort of the biggest surface area, it's got the most missions, it's really busy. So we are going to be spending quite a bit of time here, and partially annoyingly we're not actually going to manage to 100% complete the Misty Stream in this part. And that's largely because there is one very specific battle that is in here that I was not ready to take on at this moment in time. So I'll have to come back and do that later, and I think partially because I knew that was going to be the case, I didn't necessarily complete everything first time around anyway.
Let's see.
Basically what you want to do is you want to try and find the Endymion constellation. That's the imp. There's also a Tomberry in here, but you want the Endymion. Because the Endymion ship is what is going to allow you to take on the super powerful optional secret boss in the gummy ship missions. Because in order to do it, you need a ship that has naturally over 200 speed. And what you then do is you can see a massive green tornado on the field. You want to drive directly into that tornado to instigate the fight. And you will end up in a pretty challenging fight, so you do just need to be a little bit careful.
Let's see.
In terms of how you take it down. There's our Tomberry, so we've still got one more to get the Endymion. I think I'll probably end up sticking with the bomb for a while. Purely because it was just like, well, there's no point in changing to the Endymion unless I'm beginning to really struggle with things. But we are going to be spending quite a bit of time here. So I suppose that really now is as good a time as any to go over one of the things that was revealed in Kingdom Hearts 3 Ultimania. So obviously the Ultimania books basically have massive guide things to the games has been coming out for years, and in it there was a specific interview with Tetsuya Nomura, which was called the Scenario Mysteries Interview. And so since, gonna be here for nearly an hour, let's sort of go through it and interrogate it in detail, I suppose. So I'm going to say right now, massive thank you to KH Insider and their translator Gold Panna for this, because honestly, would not have this otherwise. I'd really like to look at the Kingdom Hearts Ultimanias, but never really got the chance. So the first question. Is the speech Sora gives in the opening the one that begins with, "They can take your world, they can take your heart," a monologue by Sora post-ending? Nomura's answer? Well, it's not the only answer, but the words do suggest Sora's mental state post-ending. So, it's not full confirmation, but it's basically the suggestion that what you see at the beginning of the game is actually sort of at the end of the game, which is a very interesting prospect to take and makes sense of the whole thing of the final world, battle against Darkseid, And also I feel we do have to at least pay somewhat attention to the fact that we're fighting a giant icy castle. I love this. It's a ridiculous fight, but I am totally down with it. So, next question. In the final world, Sora tells Naminé, "Someone else special I know won't let you down." The translation note for it is literally, "The person you miss / want to see the most will come get you." Did he mean Riku? Nomura, he meant that the person Naminé wants to see the most would come get her, as a way of cheering her up. It actually is Riku, in the form of the one who has been entrusted with the Riku replica's feelings, who does go and get her. Naminé does feel a special connection to Riku, specifically the Riku replica. Sora doesn't thank Naminé in this game either. Is this something that is going to be carried over into a future game? Nomura, well, Naminé's revival did happen at the end of the game, effectively making it something that will be drawn out longer. So, at some point, we should see, you know, Naminé finally get thanked for all of her hard work, the poor girl. Didn't even get a speaking role. Oh no, she did get a speaking role, tell a lie, because we spoke to her in the final world. We haven't obviously done it in this playthrough yet, but we will see it, so it is canon that it happens. But yeah, the poor girl hardly has a role at all. So she damn well deserves getting thanked. I know it was sort of her fault, but she was being manipulated, so it's fine. But it's nice to have the confirmation that Nomura's plans do include Naminé returning, and do include Sora returning somehow. Question? How did Ansem the Wise, Andy Enzo, and the others move Naminé's heart into a vessel without Kairi being there? The answer? When Kairi was defeated the first time in the Keyblade Graveyard, Naminé's heart was thrown into the final world, right? And Naminé's heart was also thrown out just before the final battle, when Kairi was hit by Xehanort's attack. I do plan to show the details of what happened after that. So, suspicion here, that is something that will come up in Remind. If not in Remind, it will appear in one of the other DLCs that might come at some point or another. So, in the fun world, there was a nameless star whose scene was voiced. Who is she and who is she waiting for? Can't reveal that yet, says Nomura. But I can say that whoever she is waiting for, Sora knows their name. So, this leads to a few interesting theories, I suppose, at least from my part. So, there are, I suppose, a few different options. I think the most likely one is that the nameless star was actually Strelitzia, and the person that she was waiting for was Lauriam, even though obviously Lauriam's name is Marluxia and that's what Sora knows him as, but then equally, if I recall correctly, we'll see it in the future part in the Exodus when I actually show off the Nameless Stars cutscene, she says he's not the same as what I used to know, so she might know the name of the new one. So Marluxia makes sense as a character. Theoretically, it could be Ventus, although everything that I've seen in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross currently would not suggest Ventus. If the Nameless Star was actually schooled, then theoretically it could be Aphma, but I don't think that Sora knows Aphma's name, even though he saw him in the Keyblade Graveyard. Could be anything. I'm sure we'll find out at some point. So, when we leave the final world, we are back at the point just before Sora and his friends were defeated. Why is that? The answer is the power of awakening is essentially the power to put sleeping hearts back the way they were, but the impact of forcing his friends' fading hearts back the way they were rewrote reality and created a singularity. The rewrite caused the chronology in which they were destroyed to have never happened, despite the fact that they know that it happened. Honestly, time travel. crazy thing. You do need to be careful when you're writing it. I don't think Nomura necessarily thought everything through with that, but hey, them's the breaks. How did Roxas appear at the Keyblade graveyard? So at that point in time, Ienzo had basically finished making Roxas's body using the replica that Vexen and Demix brought as a base and the data from Twilight Town. It's ultimately how Shion was manufactured using Sora's memories in days. When he was at a state where all he needed was for the heart inside Sora to return, his friends were in peril. So he used his connection to Sora to rush to the Keyblade graveyard, where his heart returned to his new body and his revival as Roxas was complete. Not sure that necessarily makes full sense. Largely because ultimately what it probably should be is he used the power of waking. Because the power of waking is crossing hearts to get to worlds. If I remember correctly. It's been a little bit of time since I've played the ending, and I'm just like, what was the explanation for the power of waking again? I honestly can't remember. So that would sort of make sense, but honestly I don't really care because it was just a really cool moment and really satisfying and made me really happy because the Days trio were finally reunited and it was wonderful and everything I could have hoped for. So, teeny plot hole for that, more than willing to... Oh god. So excited that I nearly completely knocked over my drink. Like, I'm gesticulating so much that, yeah, I just sort of whacked it, nearly flinging it over my laptop and just destroying everything that I'm working on at the minute, which would have been a terrible thing and made me really very sad. But I rescued it, it is okay. You're just going to end up with a bit of an odd noise on the recording of me going, oh, good lord. Because, you know, I do have a very, very posh British accent. I don't really... I mean, I sort of do. It's posher than other people from Nottingham, but it's not as posh as some people. I do just lean into it on the odd occasion. Just for fun, of course. So, next one. When Marluxia is fading, he says, I am on the cusp of reclaiming my identity, my purpose for being. Did he remember that he was from the distant past? And Nomura's answer is yes, I think if you play KH Union Cross to the end, you will learn his purpose for being. Annoyingly, at the present moment in time, Union Cross is not finished. Part of me would like, you know, this is when it's going to come to an end guide. That would be nice. Like, how many missions total are we aiming for here? Because I have, awesomely, actually gotten up to date on all of the missions, which makes me really very happy. Because I was wondering whether I would actually manage it. Did take me a while, but I did manage to sort of get up to 865 missions that there are at present in the English version. And that's awesome. It does feel like it's sort of coming to some form of conclusion quite rapidly. I know that there's going to be the wonder that is the Wreck-It Ralph world, so I know that that's coming. But in terms of the Daybreak Town stuff, it does sort of feel like it is revving up to something. But I'm very intrigued to see where that goes, and I've enjoyed my time with that game. So even if it is quite simplistic, it's a fun time, and definitely in terms of the main story, it's not that challenging, considering how many medals you can get from various things. And you can get some pretty good medals quite easily, which can really make the whole thing a breeze, especially when you join a party and then you've got your friends' medals as well to make use of, because some of them are really powerful if you get into a good party with some good people. Let's put it that way. So, continuing onwards, when Larxene said, "I was really just along for the ride," she must have meant with... It was Marluxia, of course it was Marluxia. Namira also says it's not certain whether Larxene has her old memories, but she was interested in Marluxia to a degree for some reason, and became his partner in his plan to overthrow the old Organisation 13. And then, sort of going along that route, were Marluxia and Larxene also the Keyblade wielders of old that Xemnas was searching for? Namira's answer is typical Namira. Hasn't been made clear yet, but I believe that those who play KH Union Cross can guess. So, yes. By the way, Xemnas was also looking for the Chamber of Awakening in KH days because Ventus, who was sleeping there, was a Keyblade wielder of old. And the follow-up question was, so that means that Xehanort was aware that Ventus was a Keyblade wielder of old. Namira pretty much was just like, regarding that, I think I definitely have to show sometime how Ventus and Xehanort met. Which does make me very intrigued, because that opens up the possibility of either that's going to be shown in one of the KH3 DLCs, or it is going to turn up in a future iteration even though the Xehanort saga is over. So I will be intrigued to see whether he follows through with that or not. So now we move away from Keyblade wielders of old to Terranaut. So a question about Terranaut, Ansem and Xemnas came from the splitting of... Well, yeah, question about Terranaut. So, Ansem and Xemnas came from the splitting of Terranaut. And does that mean that when they were defeated in KH1 and KH2, Terra was revived alongside Master Xehanort? Namira's answer is kind of typical Namira. By all rights, Terra should have been revived as himself at that point in time. However, his heart was still in the clutches of Xehanort, and it was unable to go back, and the shell of his body was the only thing that revived. Then Xehanort brought the heart of Terranaut from the past and put it in that shell of a body he once controlled. So, yay for moving hearts about like a crazy person. So the next one is, from when was Terra's heart inside the Guardian? Translation note being, they call the Guardian the monster behind. Translator thinks could have gotten it totally wrong, but it is a reference to what they call the balloon accessory version of him in the Kingdom Hearts Union Cross Ansem avatar board, which in Japanese is something like monster balloon behind the Ansem costume. So the Guardian has a slightly different name in Japanese, apparently. So Terra and Xehanort's hearts were eternally struggling against each other within Terranaut. This process meant Terra's heart was caught constantly moving back and forth from its original position to the Guardian. So sort of it kept moving between the body and the Heartless. And yeah, Namira then says, the official name of the Guardian is the guy behind him. And then he laughed, because of course he did, because that is a typical Namira name. Then, what happened to the Lingering Will after the battle? Something that I think all of us would like to know, because obviously he goes off into a fight against Terranaut, and then vanishes completely and never returns. The answer is, when Terra was revived, it caused the will to vanish, and the armour disappeared. But Keyblade Wielder's armour is like a Keyblade in that, even if it disappears, it can be summoned again, so long as the wearer is in their usual condition. So, it still doesn't exactly answer the question of where did the Lingering Will go after the battle, because I think it was that battle that they were referring to, not the overall battle. But obviously once Terra returns to being Terra, there's no reason for the Lingering Will to exist anymore. And I mean, that totally makes sense. I'm totally fine with that as an answer. I'd like to know. Need an answer of where the hell was he and why didn't he help us fight, goddammit? So then we have at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3D, we saw that the new Organisation 13 was missing a 13th member. Who filled that spot? Well, it's quite obvious, it was Xion. The 12 members who were gathered in Kingdom Hearts 3D were missing the 13th, Xion, and reserve members Demyx and Vexen. That part may have felt a bit out of nowhere, and Nomura thinking of a way to follow it up. So I think we should be getting some of that, hopefully, in Remind, if not in a future Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC. Did the members of the new Organisation 13 have numbers? Nomura did think of giving them numbers at first, but didn't go with it in the end because it was too confusing having some members end up with different numbers than before. For example, Master Xehanort was number 1, Ansem was number 2, and Xemnas was number 3, but then thought people would get confused, like, wait, so the guy who was number 1 is now number 3. How does that make any sense? Then we have, when young Xehanort is fading away, he says, "Goodbye, Sora, your time in this world is..." And then, he pops his clock before anything else. What did he mean? So, Nomura's basic answer is, your time in this world is over. The translation note is literally, you will fade/vanish from this world. The verb order is different in Japanese. It was the verb fade/vanish that got cut off when he died. So obviously, in English they did have to change it slightly because of the structure of phrasing. So it's hinted at in the ending, basically. Before that, he warned Sora there's a high price to pay for wielding such power foolishly. The power of awakening is not the power to bring people back to life, but Sora was using it to do just that for his friends. As a result, time was rewound, and young Xehanort predicted that Sora would pay the price by disappearing. Considering, he does it a second time to bring Kairi back, kind of makes sense. Then you have, was Lee insisting on being called Axel so that when Roxas came back he would recognise him? The answer is quite simple actually. Yes, but also because when he saw Kairi as Xion, he remembered that there was someone he was supposed to remember, which made him feel that being called Axel was important. And I mean, that's totally fine because, to be fair, Axel is a cooler name than Lee. Lee's still a nice name, don't get me wrong, but Axel, he was Axel for such a long time that honestly, I'm fine with that. Why does Maleficent know about the black box from the days of old? This one's actually kind of quite simple, really. At Kingdom Hearts 1, when, she got stabbed by Dark Riku, she travelled to the age of Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, where she found out a few things. When she returned to the present after that, the result was her rebirth in Kingdom Hearts 2. The act of returning to the present time / going to the future is connected to how the characters from the days of old have ended up in the current time period. So, we will undoubtedly find out more about that soon. Well, not necessarily soon, but we'll find out more about that in future missions in Union Cross and future games. It seems that Maleficent thinks that the Book of Prophecy is inside the black box. She does think that. Hasn't been shown exactly when she began to think that way, but I do plan to reveal it soon in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. Which is a little bit odd, because that suggests that she is going to return to the world of Union Cross somehow. To be able to think that way, because her time is sort of already done, at last I checked. Although, to be fair, if I recall correctly, she hasn't actually returned to her present in Union Cross. We just haven't seen her in bloody forever. She had a cutscene where she met a figure in shadow, learned about things, and then crept off because she was skulking. But we will see on that front. In Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, Master Xehanort's goal behind opening Kingdom Hearts was to create a new world, but in this game he says it is to reset the world. Why the difference? Nomura's answer is, what was revealed in this game was another piece of the truth. His goal was, this world is no longer any good and we have to recreate it from scratch. So basically confirming what, I was saying of... They didn't really change his motivation or his plan. It was always that way. It's just they gave it a little bit more context. So he wanted to create a new world and effectively reset the current one to scratch. Makes sense. And then the next question is, we're interested in why Xehanort would come to such a conclusion. Nomura is just like, at first I did want to use the next game to dig down into how Xehanort went from that simple boy playing the chess-like game to an admirer of the darkness. But if I do that, then the Dark Secret Chronicle wouldn't have ended with Kingdom Hearts 3 after all. He laughs. Some ideas had solidified to a degree, but it's shelved for now. Which obviously implies that at some point in the future, Nomura might decide to return partially to the Dark Secret series, the Chronicle. But obviously it's on the back burner for now and it's not going to get looked at. Pretty much the same, I suppose, as Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, a fragmentary passage. Or was it that one 0.2 at that time, or was it 0.5? Oh, no, it was 0.5 at that time. And then obviously it did get to find its way into the game in terms of actually being 0.2 Birth by Sleep fragmentary passage. A lot shorter than it had initially been planned to be, but it did sort of finally get its existence. And I certainly know that certain elements in like some of the other games ended up getting revived at later points. So would not surprise me if even if the Dark Secret Chronicle is over, we don't get some of those extra bits dotted around in there, because partially it's a very Nomura thing to do. I mean, everything's a Nomura thing to do. He's a crazy person, and honestly, that is why we love him. That's why we love his games, because his particular brand of craziness does just sort of exude fun. It's delightful. Also, I will not accept a B rank. Hey, thank you. I will get an A rank. I just need to be a little bit more on the ball. So yes, we'll see on that one. So, this bit's quite interesting, and I sort of noticed it but didn't really, is during the underwater section in Scarlet ad Kylam, you can see a clock tower like the one that appears in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. Was Scarlet ad Kylam built upon the ruins of Daybreak Town? Answer surprisingly clear on this one, actually. Yes. The staff who drew the concept art came to me with two proposals for the clock tower. One standing normally on the seabed, and one hanging upside down from the surface of the sea. I chose the upside down one. So, basically, yes, Scarlet ad Kylam, Stairway to Heaven, was built on the ruins of Daybreak Town, which means that Daybreak Town at some point got destroyed and replaced by Scarlet Kylam. Which to me suggests that the end of Union Cross is we're going to see the destruction of Daybreak Town, and I suspect also the creation of Scarlet ad Kylam. And honestly, I would be really excited about that prospect. Because playing through Union Cross, I did feel, I suppose, slightly cheated out of not being able to play like the original ending of Kingdom Hearts Key. Because obviously that had the whole thing of the Keyblade War. And it looked like there were quite a few cool cutscenes and things involved in that.
Let's see.
And I just really wish that I had gotten to play that. But the fact that that version of the game ultimately ended in a really sad and tragic way, I mean, as the franchise has done many a time, it would not surprise me if the final fate of Daybreak Town, well, obviously it clearly is going to be equally tragic. The destruction of a whole city. Well, town. But the fact that Key ended like that means that I would not be surprised if Union Cross ended in a similar fashion. And I will be quite intrigued to see whether that is indeed the case. So then, the next question is, what was the true identity of No Heart, who appeared in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep Final Mix? And that was Master Xehanort. That was the armour that he used to wear a long time ago. In this game he wears his current armour. I think that he kind of went with slightly worse armour. It was the neck. It was the neck that threw it off. The neck totally threw it off. But there we go. The final two questions, pretty kind of in terms of what they actually achieve, but who specifically are the Lost Masters? They are the 7 Master and Masters and 6 Apprentices who appear in Kingdom Hearts Key back cover. And then when Luxord was fading away, he gave Sora a wild card. What did that mean? And the mayor was basically just like, that will come into play later. Perhaps Luxord's card holds the key to Sora's revival. And I mean, that makes sense. I know that if I were developing the story of this game, I would have had Luxord's card do something in this game. I mean, probably would have used it to save Kairi. I think it's just the type of Chekhov's gun that would have a good impact. Be a little bit convenient, you know, getting it right towards the end, but considering how Luxord seems to try and play things, or tries to be ahead of the game, it wouldn't surprise me if he sort of saw something like that coming and it was a way of bringing someone back. So the fact that we've got to wait until the next game to see it is, or well, at least the next game to see it is a little bit confusing. Well, not confusing, but a little bit frustrating. But I get it. I mean, it's the same with a number of things that sort of you look at over the course of. Whenever you're looking at somebody else's story, it can always be quite easy to see and say, oh, if you tried this, it probably would have worked out a bit better. You could have made this a bit more satisfying. And that is generally because you've got that outside perspective on it. I say this as, you know, having written a book, which I will continue to plug until, you know, the day I die. The Burning Ash, now available on Amazon. Just, you know, go and search The Burning Ash, and as long as you find someone called Richard Kish who's written one and it's got a nice blue book cover with a tree on it, you're probably in the right place. But I know that in the process of writing that, there are certain things that I could have done that would have perhaps improved the narrative, improved sort of character relationships and stuff, but because I was so in the whole thing of writing it, it just became very difficult to break away from that whole idea, to have that distance necessary to make those sorts of calls. Because unless it's very obvious that something is not working, which you definitely can see, when you got something that works but isn't necessarily the perfect idea, that's when it becomes much harder to tell that there is a better way to use the things that you've got to move on. Also, that was a mission that I don't think went particularly well. Also, I think it was just a repeat. So it was at this point I was just like, no, if it's a complete repeat of a mission, out you go, you do not matter. So I do start to edit a little bit more as I go through because, oh boy, this thing was long. But yeah, it's sort of one of those things. It is a lot easier from the outside looking in. And actually, following on from that, a couple of weeks ago now, somebody pointed me in the direction of a Google Doc that someone was doing, where basically they decided that they were going to try and effectively rewrite Kingdom Hearts 3 using the general principles of where they were going to basically make it better. And while I think that some of the ideas in it would have been quite fun, I mean, there was a much bigger emphasis on taking other Keyblade wielders on missions with you, so you'd have a total of 5 party members. So you could take like Kairi, Axel, Aqua, and so on with you on journeys into the worlds. They get their own designs, and you'd be able to sort of have more of a relationship with the other wielders and spend more time with them. I like that idea. That is a totally okay idea. But then again, I also appreciate that that would have been sort of a little bit of extra effort and wouldn't... I mean, it would have made sense in sort of, you know, giving Kairi and Axel a little bit more to do. Same for Aqua, really. But then equally, it would have taken away from Kingdom Hearts 3 being pretty much a Sora, Donald and Goofy story. Because that is how this franchise began, and obviously that is how this chronicle ends. And I think that was, personally, I feel that that was the best choice to go with. And while I wouldn't have said no to having the other Keyblade wielders as party members, I am just grateful that, you know, Sora, Donald and Goofy got to spend that time together. Some of the other things that it brought up were sort of shifting around the orders of things. So rather than San Francisco being the last world, it would have been Kingdom of Corona. At least I think that was the case. And it was much more heavily involved in having Kairi be part of that, so they get to spend a romantic time underneath, you know, the Lantern Festival. I mean, I would have loved to have seen that. That would have been really, really cute. But then equally, there were things like... There was, like, I think a couple of worlds where it was just like, no, just get rid of it. Doesn't make any sense, I don't like it. I think Frozen got quite hit by that. I mean, I know that there was basically sort of remove most of the Frozen from Frozen. Definitely get rid of Let It Go was one of the things, at which point my brain just goes, no, don't you dare. Don't you dare touch my Frozen. Like, I mean, I'm not really... I would not have been that upset if they didn't feature the Let It Go scene. I would have thought they were stupid for not including it, but I wouldn't have, you know, tried to murder anybody over it. But for me, that scene is something that I've wanted the Kingdom Hearts franchise to do for such a long time. Not that scene specifically, although it does make me happy that that scene was included, because I do like the song and that scene. But more so having a proper musical number from a Disney film in a Kingdom Hearts game. because obviously, as I've said over the years of playing Kingdom Hearts on this channel, one of the things that I most love about Disney films is the music, is the songs. And so having them feature in the game that's fusing Kingdom Hearts and, well, fusing Disney and Japanese anime craziness. Obviously it was initially Final Fantasy, but the Final Fantasy really took a back seat in this particular game. It's just really satisfying to have that. I wanted more, if I'm being honest, because I really wanted I See the Light. I probably would have also taken like, give me A Star Is Born in Olympus. Would have been down with that. I'm trying to think of there's not really any other world where a kind of full-on musical number would work so well necessarily. But then equally, I probably would have dumped Pirates and thrown in Aladdin King of Thieves instead. Because I think that would have been having sort of, you know, the Hercules trilogy and the Aladdin, well, there wasn't a trilogy of Hercules films, but sort of having it appear in all of the games made sense. So the fact that that was a returning world, it would have also been cool to have Aladdin return, so Agrabah return, because obviously they have done the first two films, but they didn't do the third one. And I think that there could have been some fun, interesting things to do with that. Also, you know, making Agrabah a little bit more populated than it has been previously would have been nice. But with all that said, I do think that that document which suggests sort of all of those changes is a very foolish, and even though it purports to be well thought out, I don't think that it does that much of a better job at telling this story than what we've already got. Like, I'm not saying that this story is perfect. God no, that there are too many holes, well, not necessarily holes, but gaps and bits of structure that just needed a little bit of wangling, a little bit more thought to make it truly shine. But I do think that the game did a very good job at delivering the characters and the emotional impact that the end of this kind of chronicle in the series required. Like, these are the best the characters have ever been, and honestly, I think that outside of some of the story issues, it's the best the series has ever been written. And considering it's trying to pull together all these different threads from all sorts of different games, I think that it does a very admirable job trying to tie all of those loose ends together while still setting stuff up for the future. And honestly, I think that is something that needed to be done, because even though we all knew that they were planning on continuing the series after Kingdom Hearts 3, I don't think that we necessarily really foresaw that it was going to happen. There was sort of the, yeah, of course it's going to continue. Yeah, really. Get 3 out first, you crazy person, and then we'll talk. So the fact that, you know, 3 came out and actually 4 doesn't look like it is just sort of a pipe dream anymore. I think that sort of it was a smart move to at least pop in some mysteries to carry through into future titles. Because it means that Sora's story is not done, even though, you know, that totally dies at the end of this one. It's just something that really, it just makes sense to sort of bring it all, bring that stuff sort of through afterwards. Yes, obviously, as you can see, I am in the Endymion now. Going very speedily. I mean, I do like this ship. It's really quite cool. But I think I've got, for this part anyway, we've got 1 more battle. And then maybe 2, I'm not quite sure. But there's going to be a lot of hunting for sort of the remaining 10 minutes of this. Which it's a little bit frustrating. I can't remember exactly how much I did end up completing of the Misty stream in this part. I think some of it does drag over into the start of the next part. I definitely know we are not going to tackle the optional Super Gummy Ship boss in this part, because I wasn't ready for that yet. I hadn't built myself up to it. Also, trying to find anything in this tight corridor labyrinth of ice was just absolutely ridiculous. This is where I really do wish that that steering was better on the gummy ships. So yeah, let's take this one on and we will see how it all pans out. But if you're worried about, you know, the next 2 parts of the extras, I have got a full other interview from Kingdom Hearts 3 Ultimania to go through, once again translated by Gold Panna, which should do us pretty good, I think, in terms of going through it all. We will see. But that should cover us pretty decently for the upcoming part or 2, which I'm quite grateful for, because honestly, when you reach this far in a playthrough of any description, if there's no story content left and it's just sort of extras, you do really tend to lose steam. I mean, I always have. I mean, even when there is new story content, I'm just like, oh god, I'm over part 60, I've been talking for god knows how many hours in total over these things. It's just like, oh god, I feel old. I feel old and tired and exhausted. There's no need to, really. I shouldn't, but I mean, at the end of the day, all I'm doing is talking over video games. This is not the most taxing of things in the world. But I suppose, that said, it is having to at least try to concentrate on something for lengthy spans of time. I mean, generally whenever I do these things, I do them in, like, a couple of hour sessions. So, I mean, it's generally like between 1 to 2 hours of commentary straight, unless, you know, I decide that, no, I can't do that this time round. or when I just decide to do a mega session. Because that can sometimes happen. Doesn't usually happen, but sometimes it does. And sort of staying switched on for that length of time can be a lot. Especially, you know, when it's just me on my Todd trying to make content that's at least somewhat enjoyable and somewhat listenable for that length of time. I mean, obviously, as I've pointed out, me being the whole extroverted introvert, like this is a challenge sometimes. Because it is all about coming up with, you know, the conversation topics and sort of through fares to guide through bits and pieces and all that jazz. And I'm pretty sure there is a purple crystal. I knew there was a purple crystal somewhere in here. It's like, don't you dare trick me into thinking that it's not there. Don't even try it. I think there might be another one somewhere around. Can't remember exactly, but sort of getting an aerial view can be quite helpful at times. Keyword being at times. I mean, obviously I was able to see that one because it's, you know, shining blue. And I was just like, so what is this one? And I think this one might be purple. Please let this one be purple. Well, we'll find out soon enough, I guess, as soon as I figure out what the hell I'm doing. But yeah... it's never difficult doing these things, it's just sort of... you just have to try to kind of stay as on the ball as possible, and for someone like me, anyway, that can be difficult. And... I mean, I suppose that is part of the reason why I'm deciding to retire the whole thing, because... well, I mean, the main reason is I want to focus on other things, and I think 10 years is pretty damn good innings, if you ask me. For anything, really. But I've covered most of the things that I could probably possibly ever talk about on playthroughs. Like, I've told so many anecdotes over the years of various things. Anecdotes that I've probably not told quite a few people in real life, funnily enough. And... that's purple crystal, that's purple crystal, that's purple crystal! So yeah, like... I mean, I've also done a really deep dive into certain opinions, I suppose, that I've had about various things. From quite serious issues to things that just really are not that important, and really who actually cares about some of them. But they mattered to me at those times. Some of them still do, obviously, but... it varies, and also I can't believe that I had a moment of just going, yes, I am going to sort of fly upwards to get to that thing, and then I ended up completely missing it. At least I got it this time round. It just, you know, took a little bit longer than expected. And also I know that it's quite late in the part to be saying this, but the fact that I you've got to have a 2-star ranking, I think, to successfully destroy the purple crystals in this area. It's a bit of a pain. But we have actually completed a lot more of the Misty Stream than I thought we would have done. Because we've gotten all of the gummy battles, apart from the super secret challenging optional gummy fight. We've gotten the constellations, and we have gotten we will have gotten all the purple crystals by the end of this. So I think we can definitely chalk it up to a success. But I know that I am still, I think, looking for one purple crystal. I think the annoying thing is that, well, I think they are in the same location. So the purple crystals are always in the same place. I don't know whether you get the same item from each purple crystal. So that can be a bit of a challenge in terms of guide making. But it's also the fact that it is obviously just so hard to point people and kind of figure it out from like landmarks and all that jazz out in the depths of space. But I think, fingers crossed, we should be finding that final purple crystal soon. Now please, for the love of God, let that actually be the case. Because otherwise I think I will probably just go absolutely insane. Right, so clearly we're going up. Please let it be on top of this thing, or okay, so there's that one. Yeah, I just got really frustrated at this moment in time. I was just like, just let me find the final thing, damn it. But fingers crossed it might actually be the one that we're just heading to now, please. Pretty, please. Oh, I'm very American there, I don't know why. And yes! There it is! The final purple crystal of the Misty Stream, as far as I'm aware. So, with that done... Oh, no, yeah, no, that's fine, they're battles, so that's okay. So with all that done, it's time to move onward, I think, to the eclipse. We'll come back to that one later. So yes, onward to the eclipse. It's going to be glorious.